This is part 2, episode 48. After all, the dragon god now is no longer like the dragon god then, no, Elder Mu. You can't put it that way, Elder Mu said hurriedly, you're Shrek's anchor. Elder Mu sighed. My spine was snapped, and Dubuz's elder brother's Dubis's lethal poison entered my passageways. Although I preserved my life, I can't straighten my back anymore. But it's only through that clash that I managed to attain a breakthrough and escape a catastrophe. Dubisi wasn't as fortunate as I was. He died of his injuries after hanging on for a while. It's a pity. He was also a hero of his time. Elder Xian was a little shocked as he looked at him. Elder Mu grabbed onto Hu Yuhao's right hand and said, when I first saw you, I knew that you were a kid with a story. That's because the expression in your eyes was different from most others. Your eyes might have been very clear, but they concealed your pain. Your pain has only disappeared recently. As you said, Shrek is your family. It's also our family. I told Dubuzi when I conversed with him earlier that you're my disciple. He told me that he won't target you as long as you're in Shrek. I understood what he meant. When you graduate from Shrek, he may target you again. Hu Yuhao was stunned. He didn't expect that the body sect still hadn't given up on him. Elder Xian couldn't take it anymore. Stupid kid, quickly acknowledge your teacher, Hu Yuhao only reacted now. He knelt down immediately and bowed to Elder Mu respectfully. Elder Mu, please accept me as your disciple. Elder Mu laughed and said, good kid, stand up. He grabbed Hu Yuhao's right hand and pulled gently. A gentle strength was injected into Hu Yuhao's body and lifted him up. Elder Mu was all smiles when he saw the sincere look in Hu Yuhao's eyes. The more he looked, the more pleased he was. He couldn't make the proposal to Hu Yuhao to become his disciple with his current status. He could only hint. Fortunately, Elder Xian reminded Hu Yuhao from the side, so he didn't miss out on such a great opportunity. Hu Yuhao tried to test the waters by asking, Elder Mu, are you agreeable? Elder Mu laughed. Silly kid, it's time for you to say it. Hu Yuhao was delighted and hurriedly said, teacher. He wanted to kneel down again as he said it. But Elder Mu didn't let him do so this time, by using his gentle soul power to lift Hu Yuhao up. You will be my closed-door disciple from today onwards. I'm not very particular about the formalities. You don't have to kneel in the future. A bow will do, yes. Hu Yuhao was still very respectful even though Elder Mu wasn't very particular about formalities. If Elder Mu and Elder Xian were not around, he would have jumped in excitement. Wang Dong and Xiao Xiao were envious as they saw this scene, and walked up to congratulate him hurriedly. Elder Mu smiled. The two of you are good too. Xiao Xiao, learn from Elder Xian in the future. Let him analyze you as special auxiliary type battle soul master. As for Wang Dong, you're a light type soul master too. You can be my disciple in name temporarily. Wang Dong stuck out his tongue and said in a slightly brazen manner, Elder Mu, this is unfair. I'm a light type soul master just like you, but you accepted Hu Yuhao as your disciple although he isn't the light type. How can you be so discriminatory? I want to be your closed-door disciple too. Elder Mu couldn't help but laugh as he saw Wang Dong's indignant look. He said, you little fellow. You're the first person to make such a request in front of me. There can only be one closed-door disciple. Wang Dong moved closer as he saw that Elder Mu wasn't angry. He said almost naturally, it's okay. With your status, you can set a precedent. Who will dare to doubt you? Moreover, both Yuhao and I possess martial fusion soul skills, and are one together. Just take the both of us as the same person. Elder Mu's smile turned a little cheeky, oh. One together. Elder Xian chuckled and replied, I see that you quite enjoy it. This is not bad either. Both these fellows are good. Since this is the case, I shall accept a closed-door disciple myself too. I'm not much younger than you anyway. Xiao Xiao was quick-witted, and knelt down in front of Elder Xian hurriedly. She bowed to him, teacher. Elder Xian lifted her up and chortled, little fellow, you must be outstanding when you're under me. Don't lose to those two fellows. Xiao Xiao laughed and replied, teacher, I will do my best. Just give me all the items that can enhance my strength. Elder Xian laughed, wow, did I accept a closed-door disciple, or a little troublemaker? You're definitely not standing on ceremony. Xiao Xiao laughed, we're on the same side. What's there to stand on ceremony between us, right? I bought you a chicken drumstick too. After she ended her retreat, she had been cultivating with Elder Xian, and was already very familiar with him. She was naturally extremely excited now that their relationship had been confirmed. Elder Mu revealed a stunned look on his face at this point and said, Dubuzi just left, but someone just came. It seems like it's a good day today. Elder Xian squinted his eyes, and a sharp radiance flashed across them. He was about to make his move. Elder Mu lifted his hand and stopped him. He said, the visitor is a guest. Just invite him in. Elder Xian was shocked and asked, into the Sea God's Pavilion. Elder Mu smiled and replied, yes, into the Sea God's Pavilion. Although Elder Xian was shocked, he wouldn't go against Elder Mu's instructions. But he never recalled any outsiders being allowed into Sea God's Pavilion before. Elder Xian had already disappeared from where he was as a radiance flashed. He arrived outside the Sea God's Pavilion at the next moment. He looked into the distance and said coldly, since you're already here, you don't have to sneak around anymore. Come out. As he spoke, he grabbed at the air, and a huge citrine hand appeared in the air. The hand opened wide and grabbed in one direction. Suddenly, countless thin black cracks appeared in air in that direction. Although these cracks couldn't compare to Dubuzi's, they still existed. Elder Xian, this is not a way to receive your guest. A dim golden radiance lit up. As a halo spread instantly, it rippled, and the distorted light rays cancelled out Elder Xian's huge hand. A figure also appeared in that direction. The person that appeared wasn't tall, but he was plump. His long, elegant robe was embroidered with gold patterns. He placed his hands behind his back and smiled at Elder Xian. Wasn't he the hallmaster of the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy's illustrious Virtue Hall? As well as the person in charge of the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy, it's you. Jing Hongchen. Elder Xian was also shocked. Although he could sense his strong presence, he didn't expect it to be the hallmaster of the illustrious Virtue Hall. Jing Hongchen smiled and said, Elder Xian, you shouldn't be surprised. Since you want something from the illustrious Virtue Hall, I've come to personally pay a visit to Elder Xian and Shrek Academy. Elder Xian's eyes flashed with a divine light as he thought to himself, this Jing Hongchen came at such a coincidental timing. Did he come with the body sect, and only show himself at this point? Or is it really a coincidence? Elder Xian didn't reveal his thoughts, and spoke indifferently. You're a guest, please come in. As he spoke, he turned around and walked into the Sea God's Pavilion. Jing Hongchen was the one who was shocked now. He was already shocked when he had been discovered. With the concealment-type soul tool that he had created himself, he believed that he was undiscoverable as long as he didn't move. But Elder Xian managed to trace him. He was even more surprised that Elder Xian invited him into the Sea God's Pavilion. Jing Hongchen smiled and replied, I believe that soul tool research is only in its preliminary stage. The world belongs to soul tools in the future. When the day comes when soul tools no longer rely on Soul Master's soul power as a motivation, Soul Masters will be eliminated. I wonder if Elder Xian is convinced by this belief. Elder Xian replied coldly, it doesn't matter whether I believe it or not. Anyway, you won't live to see that day. It's not important whether I'll live to see that day, Jing Hongchen said very casually, it's enough if it happens in the Sun Moon Empire, and it will happen in the Sun Moon Empire. Star Luo, Heavenly Soul, Do Ling and even your Shrek Academy are too far off in the aspect of soul tools. Elder Xian laughed, oh. Are we that far off? I don't think so. Since when were you able to exploit this gap to defeat Shrek Academy? We only sent half of our main forces for the Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Soul Dueling Tournament that just ended. But we still won. This proves that your advantage in soul tools is not decisive yet. Elder Xian was surprised that Jing Hongchen nodded after hearing his words, you're right. I received news from your academy that expressed your interest to hold an exchange with the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy. I was very happy then. But for some reason, your academy changed its mind. If it's because of the tournament, I don't think it's necessary. The Sun Moon Empire is magnanimous. A tournament is a tournament. We won't develop a hatred because of accidents during the tournament. After pondering for a moment, Jing Hongchen said, what if I exchange something of equal value for it? I've told you that we're keeping the sword to research Xiaotao's transformed martial soul, Elder Xian replied coldly. Jing Hongchen stiffened a little, then said in a deep voice, can I take a look at her? Elder Xian was the one who hesitated now. Elder Mu's voice rang out at this point. Yes, you can. Bring him to the second level. Jing Hongchen's expression became terrified as he heard this voice. He quickly stood up. Although he hadn't appeared with the body sect earlier, he had clearly witnessed the fight between Elder Xian and Dubuzi, as well as how Dubuzi was deterred by Shrek Academy's golden light. Jing Hongchen was very sharp even though he had not reached the level of a transcendent Doluo. He immediately recognized that the external world's understanding of Shrek Academy was erroneous. The strongest in Shrek Academy wasn't the Daotai Doluo Elder Xian, but someone else. Even Dubuzi had to retreat in front of this guy. How powerful was he? That's why he sneaked into Shrek Academy after the body sect left, and didn't appear as uprightly as the body sect. Jing Hongchen said in a deep voice, Elder Xian, an unknown elder, I have at least 3 automatic class 9 soul tools with me now. If I'm attacked, these soul tools are powerful enough to destroy all of Shrek City. They can't be stopped either. He was around Yang Xiaozhe's age. It was normal for him to call Elder Xian and Elder Mu his elders. It was an obvious showing of his weakness to boast about this was Shrek Academy. There were more than 5 transcendent Doluo from what Jing Hongchen knew. Regardless of how strong his soul tools were, he was only rank 93. He wasn't a match for so many transcendent Doluo at such close distance. But he came prepared. He also believed that Shrek Academy wouldn't really attack him. It wouldn't fit their standards. You're our guest now that you've entered the Sea God's Pavilion, Elder Mu said indifferently. If I really wanted to touch you, your soul tools may not be able to unleash their full might. Jing Hongchen didn't retort, but revealed a sense of relief. He laughed and said, It's my honor to be a guest of the Sea God's Pavilion. He came to the second level quickly under Elder Xian's guidance. Elder Mu laid in his reclining chair, while Hui Yuhao, Wang Dong and Xiao Xiao stood behind him. Hui Yuhao was very anxious. Before he underwent his retreat, he had once asked Elder Mu about Ma Xiaotao's condition. Elder Mu had told him then that Ma Xiaodao was fine, which gave him peace of mind as he retreated into cultivation. But it seemed like she was in grave condition from what Elder Xian and Elder Mu said. How could he not be anxious? Jing Hongchen was drawn to Elder Mu. Elder Mu might look like a frail elder and didn't unleash any of his powerful aura, but Jing Hongchen was certain that he was the one who had previously forced the body sect away. Elder Mu's abilities and cultivation couldn't be seen just by using one's eyes. It was unexpected that Shrek Academy had such a powerful figure. He felt surer and surer that he was right to have been cautious. Greetings, may I know Elder's name? Jing Hongchen bowed slightly to Elder Mu. Elder Mu smiled and said, My name is Mu Yen. I believe there's not many in this world who still remember my name. Jing Hongchen was entirely lost as he heard Elder Mu's name. He couldn't recall such a name from his memory or investigations into Shrek Academy. He was wary of Elder Mu because of this. Elder Mu said to Elder Xian, Little Xian, bring him to take a look at Xiaotao's condition. Yuhao, the 3 of you shall come along too. Yes, teacher. Hui Yuhao represented the rest and acknowledged Elder Mu. He quickly walked towards Elder Xian. The entire space turned golden as their surroundings flashed instantly at this point. Jing Hongchen's hands trembled subconsciously, but he soon calmed down. But the intense yet pure undulation of light left him shocked. A sense of peril rose in his heart. He was knowledgeable, but he knew nothing about the mysterious Sea God's Pavilion. The pure light didn't seem to be unleashed by someone, but emitted from the wood that surrounded them. What exactly was the Sea God's Pavilion built from? The door in front opened as the golden light flashed. They walked into a quiet chamber one by one. Elder sister Hui Yuhao saw Ma Xiaodao, who lay flat on the manifold mysterious ice bed. He was so anxious that he wanted to rush over, but he was stopped by Elder Xian. Ma Xiaodao looked a little pale, while her originally red lips were now purplish-black. They carried a sense of evil to them. Her entire body surged with black flames, as she was engulfed by the golden light. Although they were oppressed by the golden light, as soon as they surged slightly, they still appeared to be unyielding. Elder Xian shook his head at the anxious Hui Yuhao. Hui Yuhao bit his lips and his fists clenched unwittingly. It had already been 2 months since the tournament had ended. He hadn't expected his elder sister's condition to be so disastrous. She could only lie on the ice-cold bed, and had to be sealed by the powers of light. Hui Yuhao's eyes turned red, as he looked at Ma Xiaotao's face and reminisced about her usual shrewishness. Elder Xian gestured to Jing Hongchen, who stepped forward. He stopped before the light that engulfed Ma Xiaodao, and took a careful look at the black flames. After a moment, he said in a deep voice, "Can I get closer to sense the change in her soul power?" "Yes." Elder Mu's voice resonated. Following that, everyone was shocked as a golden figure appeared beside Jing Hongchen. This figure belonged to Elder Mu, but it was only an illusory projection of him. Elder Mu's back wasn't bent over now, but straight. His entire body shone a bright gold. Although it was only a projection, it seemed very real. Everything around him turned golden, as he stood there calmly. The intense light circulated in the air, and caused Wang Dong's light-type martial soul to flow out unwittingly. Even his arms that contained soul bones lit up. Jing Hongchen couldn't control his emotions and exclaimed, "What soul skill is this?" Although he wasn't a transcendent Doluo, he was still a rank 93 titled Doluo. But Elder Mu's current avatar was already beyond the boundaries of his understanding of soul masters. As the best soul engineer in the world, he was certain that this wasn't achievable using soul tools. Elder Mu was more than just a simple light projection. Jing Hongchen was awed by the immense power that he possessed. A soul master actually possessed such a power. It was an eye-opener for Jing Hongchen. But he was more horrified. He suddenly realized that Elder Mu's claim that he could stop him from unleashing his soul tools wasn't a joke. Elder Mu lifted his right hand, and a door appeared in the halo that covered Ma Xiaotao's body. It could squeeze in one person. Ma Xiaotao's flames didn't surge violently because of this door either. That was because the entire room was like a giant light seal that suppressed the black flames in her body. Jing Hongchen took in a deep breath and tried to compose himself. He walked 2 steps forward to Ma Xiaodao and used his hands to test the black flames that surged from her. After that, he pressed his hand to Ma Xiaotao's wrist and sensed the condition of her body. He then took 2 steps back and quickly exited the halo. No one noticed that when he pressed his hand to Ma Xiaotao's wrist, his fingernails shook slightly. That change wasn't even noticed by Elder Mu. Elder Mu said gradually, "Can you tell me which is better in your opinion, the illustrious Virtue Hall, or Sea God's Pavilion?" Jing Hongchen was slightly stunned. Elder Mu's question might seem very vague, but he understood immediately. He was asking about the advantages and disadvantages of soul masters and soul engineers, as well as a comparison between the illustrious Virtue Hall and Shrek Academy. After pondering for a moment, Jing Hongchen said, "I don't dare to comment, as I don't know much about the Sea God's Pavilion. Let's take Elder Xian and I as examples. Elder Xian will beat me within 100 meters. But I can perish along with him. If the distance between us is expanded to 1,000 meters, I can escape. If it's 10,000 meters, I am confident of beating Elder Xian if he doesn't leave the battlefield of his own accord. In a war, my side will win." Jing Hongchen sounded very resolute and unhesitant as he got to his last sentence. Elder Mu was even a little moved. "It seems like you are very confident." Elder Mu laughed slightly. Jing Hongchen laughed bitterly. "I believe that you can tell that I lack confidence. Soul tools have an advantage in a war, but Shrek's position on the continent can't be shaken in more higher-end battles. Neither the illustrious Virtue Hall nor the Body Sect can shake Shrek Academy." Elder Mu stole a glance at him. It was obvious that he could tell the meaning behind his words. If the illustrious Virtue Hall and Body Sect couldn't do it themselves, what if they combined their power? "Jing Hongchen, I once went to the illustrious Virtue Hall. Your development in soul tools is indeed beyond my imagination. I agree with one point of yours. When soul tools no longer rely on soul masters' soul power one day, soul masters will be eliminated. Just like how soul tools replace the Tang sect's secret weapons. But I have to add something. Even if that day really comes, soul masters will still be the most powerful. That's because only powerful soul masters can unleash the greatest might of even more powerful soul tools. Do you agree? Elder Mu, you're indeed admirable." He bowed slightly and tried his best to repress the shock that he felt. "I'm here for another reason. Many months ago, Shrek Academy agreed to an exchange between our academy's students. But it was put aside for some reason. Both the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy and Shrek Academy are top-ranked academies in the continent now. I believe that this exchange is necessary, and I feel that it will improve integration and learning between both parties." Elder Mu answered, "It's fine for us to have an exchange, but can you ensure the safety of my students? In addition, what can my Shrek students learn from your academy?" Jing Hongchen seemed to have expected this question, and answered without any hesitation, I can ensure their complete safety, and I'll swear to that by the illustrious Virtue Hall's honor. During the exchange period, your students will receive the best guidance. If they are capable enough, they can even enter the illustrious Virtue Hall to learn. Elder Mu replied, there's no evidence to prove your words. Jing Hongchen said, if you're worried, you can send Shrek Academy's teachers with them. You can even send many of them to tag along. Elder Mu shook his head and said, that'll be unnecessary. The exchange is fine. Send Xiao Hongchen and Meng Hongchen to my academy before bringing my students to your academy. I can guarantee that they'll learn in my academy's inner courtyard. You shall personally send my students back, and bring your students back to your academy once the exchange is over. Jing Hongchen replied, the Sun Moon Empire is organizing the tournament, and everyone will be watching us. We'll become a laughingstock if we do anything behind your backs. I'm willing to come to Shrek Academy to act as collateral, and I'll only return once the tournament is over and your students are back safely. However, the illustrious Virtue Hall shall be blameless if anything happens to them during the tournament, all right? That's a promise. You shall bring them here 2 years from now. I will ask Little Xian to send my students to the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy, including Hui Yuhao. Elder Mu said. That's a promise. Jing Hongchen was also elated. Although he had been demeaning soul masters and elevating the status of soul engineers, he was clearly aware that the development of soul masters was very crucial to the growth of the illustrious Virtue Hall. Especially since Shrek had been around for years, learning even a little from them was beneficial to the overall enhancement of the illustrious Virtue Hall. Perhaps Shrek Academy could also gain some knowledge of soul tools from the illustrious Virtue Hall. But it was pertinent to note that Shrek Academy didn't belong to any empire, while the illustrious Virtue Hall belonged to the Sun Moon Empire. This difference was bound to benefit the illustrious Virtue Hall more greatly, and allow them to accumulate more long-term profits. There was another reason why Jing Hongchen agreed so readily. It was that Elder Mu proposed for Hui Yuhao to go to the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy. He wouldn't have to worry about Xiao Hongchen and Meng Hongchen's safety with Hui Yuhao as an exchange student. The statuses and potential of the students sent out by both academies were equal. In addition, Hui Yuhao had twin martial souls. He had to expend a lot of effort to master his martial souls. Even if he specialized in soul tools too, he wouldn't be able to focus much on them. At least to him right now, Shrek Academy would be sending Hui Yuhao to ensure that the students both academies sent out were of equal standing. Elder Mu smiled. Since things are settled, you can leave now. Jing Hongchen bowed once again and said, thank you, Elder, for your kind treatment. I want to ask you something before I leave. Can Shrek have an even deeper exchange with the Sun Moon Empire? Elder Mu picked his brows. Shrek Academy is Doluo Continent's Shrek Academy. The Sun Moon Empire is also the Doluo Continent's Sun Moon Empire. Jing Hongchen was slightly moved. All right, I understand. He turned around and left after he finished speaking. Wait a minute. Elder Mu stopped Jing Hongchen. Jing Hongchen asked, do you have something else for me, Elder? Elder Mu smiled and said, you're the first outsider to enter the Sea Gods Pavilion in all these years. It's also not a place that one can come in and leave easily. Leave a Class 9 soul tool behind and teach us how to use it. Think of it as your admission ticket into the Sea Gods Pavilion. Admission ticket. Jing Hongchen was stunned as he looked at Elder Mu. He didn't expect him to suggest something like this. This was an obviously blackmail. Furthermore, this admission ticket was a little too pricey. Elder, you're bullying me. Jing Hongchen laughed bitterly. He might be a little more headstrong if he hadn't seen Elder Mu's avatar. But he was a little hesitant and fearful in foreign territory, and inside the unpredictable Sea Gods Pavilion. Elder Mu smiled without saying anything. He remained calm as he looked at Jing Hongchen. Jing Hongchen discovered to his horror that the walls, floor and ceiling all started to exude a dim golden light. It was as if a formless hand had gripped his throat. Elder, you invited me into the Sea Gods Pavilion. Jing Hongchen laughed bitterly. He was trying to hint at Elder Mu's lack of scruples for demanding an admission fee. Elder Mu smiled slightly and said, I invited you into the Sea Gods Pavilion, but I didn't invite you into Shrek Academy. Although it isn't some secret territory, I have to think of the students' safety too. If you're unwilling to pay the admission fee, I won't force you. But you'll have to stay here with me until the exchange 2 years later. Remain here for 2 years. Jing Hongchen's expression stiffened. The illustrious Virtue Hall and Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy would be a mess if he stayed here for 2 years. Without him holding the fort, the soul engineers under him couldn't be repressed easily by anyone. Elder Mu might seem very friendly, but he exerted great pressure on Jing Hongchen. Although he was confident that he had a fighting chance if he went all out, there was no doubt that he would remain here. Jing Hongchen took a deep breath and nodded his head. He said, "Since this is the case, I shall follow your orders. It's my fault that I entered Shrek Academy without permission. I shall leave behind Soul Tool as a gift." As he spoke, Jing Hongchen lifted his hand and fumbled around his chest. A metal chip that looked extremely thin appeared in his palm. Once he'd left the Sea God's pavilion, he leapt up into the air, and a pair of dark golden wings opened behind his back. He disappeared almost instantly. He wasn't willing to remain in Shrek Academy even a second longer. Jing Hongchen had wanted to get back what belonged to him, yet had ended up suffering even more losses. He hadn't managed to get back the Class 8 Judgment Sword, and had even lost a Class 9 Soul Tool. It's important to know that Shrek Academy hadn't had a Class 9 Soul Tool prior to this, as Class 9 Soul Tools were only utilized for strategic purposes even in the Sun Moon Empire. Even though the Class 9 Soul Tool that Jing Hongchen had given Shrek wasn't the best, it wasn't the worst either. He'd chosen Hongchen's blessing because it wasn't offensive at all, its core formation was very resilient, and wouldn't be overcome easily. However, Jing Hongchen wasn't exactly returning empty-handed. He'd seen Elder Mu, and had gained an even deeper sense of Shrek's background. This had been his greatest reward. Furthermore, he'd made other arrangements. Failure was the mother of success. He wasn't afraid of being repressed for once. Despite how depressed he felt, Jing Hongchen had several other ideas. However, he almost spat blood when he reached the soul tools that he'd set up beforehand. Jing Hongchen had set up 8 automatic soul tools over 1,000-meter distance before he'd entered Shrek Academy. 4 of them were Class 9 soul tools, while the other 4 were Class 8 soul tools. With them in place, he could remotely mount an attack on Shrek Academy and Shrek City with the push of a button. Even the most powerful individuals wouldn't be able to resist an attack of such a magnitude without sufficient preparation. They might be able to escape, but ordinary soul masters and all of the buildings present would be destroyed. But when he reached the locations where he'd placed these Class 8 soul tools, he realized that only traces of them were left behind. All of them had disappeared. He immediately realized that Elder Mu must have done something to them. He used his remote to test them out, but didn't get a reaction. It was obvious that their receivers had been destroyed. Bastard. I knew I should have had that old man equip them with self-destruct devices. Damned Shrek Academy. Jing Hongchen cursed in fury. He didn't act like how he had in the Sea God's pavilion. However, his temper disappeared as quickly as it had come. He turned around to look at Shrek Academy, an evil radiance appearing in his eyes. He snorted coldly, then turned around again and quickly left. Elder Mu, we've succeeded. Xian Lina and Qian Duo reported the good news to Elder Mu. Where had Jing Hongchen's soul tools disappeared to? They'd taken them away, of course. Elder Mu had stored Jing Hongchen in the Sea God's pavilion in order to buy them enough time. Elder Mu smiled and said, I hope that your soul tool department will be able to make some progress this time. However, take due caution, it wouldn't be a good thing if such powerful soul tools were to explode. Xian Lina said. Elder Mu, please rest assured. We'll only research the core formations for now. We won't take them apart without understanding them. Even when we do, we'll only do so in the academy. Fan Yu's already taken them back to the academy, so that we can begin researching them. Hui Yuhao was stunned as he listened from one side. He only barely managed to piece together that Elder Mu had most likely instructed the 2 soul tool department deans to gather up some powerful soul tools. Qian Duo looked at Hui Yuhao and couldn't help but laugh. Little Yuhao, you must be curious. Well, Jing Hongchen snuck into our academy and was discovered by Elder Mu. Elder Mu also sensed what he'd set up outside the academy and told us to go and gather up his soul tools. Of the soul tools he set up, 4 are Class 8 and 4 are Class 9. No matter how deep the illustrious Virtue Hall's coffers are, this will definitely be enough to make them feel a pinch for some time. Hui Yuhao was stunned. He clearly remembered the auction prices for the top-ranked soul tools sold at the auction house. The illustrious Virtue Hall had definitely suffered a heavy loss since they'd relinquished these 8 soul tools alongside the Hongchen's blessing that Jing Hongchen had left behind for Elder Mu. Elder Mu passed the Hongchen's blessing to Xian Lina and said, "Study this soul tool too. I tried it out just now." Jing Hongchen wasn't lying when he explained its usage. "But don't ruin it. I have other uses in mind for it, yes." Xian Lina excitedly received it. Even though she wasn't young anymore, she was still as excited as a little girl right now. "I'll save elder sister no matter the price, so long as I'm able." Hui Yuhao answered resiliently. Elder Mu said, "Yuhao, Wang Dong, let me ask you this. Do the two of you know why I let Jing Hongchen enter the Sea God's pavilion today?" Hui Yuhao and Wang Dong looked at each other. Then Wang Dong said, "Are you trying to stamp your authority on the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy and the Sun Moon Empire? I've heard from Teacher Wang that the Sun Moon Empire's development in soul tools has been extremely rapid. It seems that the beginnings of a war are brewing." Elder Mu didn't judge Wang Dong's analysis and turned towards Hui Yuhao. He asked, "What do you think?" Hui Yuhao answered, "I have the same general idea as Wang Dong. However, I also think that you seem to value the exchange and interaction between us and their students that you discuss." Elder Mu nodded and said, "Both of you are right. Stamping my authority, scaring him, and reaping the benefits. These were some of the reasons that I let him enter. However, the main reason was to fight for time for all of you. For us." Hui Yuhao and Wang Dong were stunned. Elder Mu replied, "My existence is Shrek Academy's greatest secret. Only the elders of the Sea Gods Pavilion currently know about me. Yet, I revealed myself in order to fight for more time, so that you young people will have time to develop. This is because I can't protect Shrek for much longer." "Teacher, you," Hui Yuhao was shocked. Elder Mu smiled and said in a carefree manner, "All people will eventually die, unless they manage to overcome that barrier. But doing so is simply too difficult. I've already been alive for over 200 years, death isn't scary to me. Both Dubisi and I suffered critical injuries back then, but I managed to ascend to rank 99, because I overcame my limits in that life and death battle. That's also what has allowed me to stay alive until now. Just this makes me very fortunate compared to Dubisi. I've clearly been able to feel my body's degradation over these past few years, it's irreversible. I'm not exactly sure how long I have left though. At the very least, I have 3 years, while at the most, I have 5 to 6 years. I can't protect Shrek for much longer. That's why I need to use what limited time I have left to do something for Shrek. If I was still in good shape, it'd be best for me remain in the dark. In that case, I'd be able to use my power to greatly rock the Sun Moon Empire even if I can't decide the result of the war. However, I can't do so now, my body's on the decline. The only thing I can do is instill fear in them by letting them know of my presence, in order to stall them from doing anything for now." In fact, the reason that Elder Mu had allowed Jing Hongchen to enter the Sea God's Pavilion wasn't as simple as he'd said. There had also been a deeper meaning behind his actions. The next 2 years will be very important to you all. There won't be any time for you rest. Yuhao, you must go to the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy in 2 years. Wang Dong, what about you? Wang Dong was dazed and hesitated. "Teacher, I don't really like soul tools. I don't have any talent in them either. However, Yuhao and I," Elder Mu nodded slightly and said, "your martial soul fusion won't disappear simply because you're distanced from one another. You aren't inferior to Yuhao in terms of talent, but your paths of development will still differ in some ways. As such, I hope that you'll remain in the academy in order to further your learning while he goes to the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy." Wang Dong hesitated, as he was still unwilling to part with Hui Yuhao. Furthermore, it would be an entire 3 years of separation. However, he didn't say anything against it, as it would still only happen 2 years from now. Elder Mu squinted. Jing Hongchen was right. Soul tools will enter every household in the future as they continue to develop. They'll inevitably replace the cold weapons that we have now. This is also one of the reasons that the war is inevitable. The other 3 empires are also developing soul tools much slower than the Sun Moon Empire. I'll only be able to fight for up to 10 years of time from now. After that, many things will change when the war comes. Wang Dong asked, "Teacher, why didn't you kill Jing Hongchen today?" Elder Mu replied, "Killing him would only cause the Sun Moon Empire to go all out. Furthermore, he wasn't lying. Many of the soul tools on his body were very threatening. Both parties would have suffered if we weren't careful. In addition to this, we couldn't afford to put Shrek's many years of foundation at risk. Jing Hongchen is extremely powerful and adaptable. He's able to make accurate choices decisively when he's forced to. He'll become a huge enemy of Shrek in the future. This video